Hello, this is Dr. Jeanette Raymond, psychologist, psychotherapist, and relationship expert, here with the third of my series on power differentials. And this one is going to be about getting a power in a couple relationship by having your partner give it to you. In other words, you don't own your own power. You don't feel like you have it unless your partner gives it to you, and then it becomes legitimate. So it's not yours until it's given to you, and then you can use it, but only insofar as your partner is comfortable with it. You feel like it can be taken away at any time. And so there's a sense of powerlessness in couples who operate in this domain of having power given to you like it's a gift rather than owning it yourself. So let's talk about David and Martinique. Martinique is a very active, capable woman. She runs her home very well. She manages her work life and her family life well. She has a nanny and a housekeeper to support her. And David is in a high-powered, stressful job. He's always trying to prove himself. He's always making the extra effort to make sure that he's taking care of every last detail in the work setting. And he's not much different when he comes home. He feels like he still has to play the good boy, the perfect husband, just like he tried to be growing up when he was trying to be the perfect son and the perfect brother, the perfect nephew, the perfect friend. Perfectionism basically meant that he was trying to prove he was worth loving, worth being with, worth taking care of, and worth being given a sense of empowerment. Because he was terrified growing up and in his marriage and at work that if he assumed the power to say, no, I don't feel like doing this, or I don't think that's the right way of doing things, or I think differently from you, or I want something different, that if he exercised that power of choice for himself, he would be shooting himself in the foot by upsetting everybody around him, and they would just leave him and abandon him, and he would have nothing. So actually, empower to him was very dangerous. It could cut him off like the umbilical cord, and he'd had nothing. And then what's the point of being good at your job if you have nothing and you're connected to no one? And it was particularly present in the relationship with Martinique because she was the kind of personality who enjoyed planning and telling her kids what to do and her husband what to do, so that she presented structure and continuity and stability, but it kind of bordered on control. So obviously this would get to David, and he would be upset and try to be the good little boy and do as he was told. But in return, he expected that she would allow him to feel some power, to make some choices, to have a difference of opinion, to think and plan differently, to have different child-rearing ideas and so on. And there were times when he earned it and she gave it to him. Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, I never thought of that. Good point, and so on. Where he would feel so empowered, his whole being would be energized and innovated, and he would feel so good about himself that he had achieved the right to have a thought, to have it validated, that he himself was being acknowledged and recognized and validated as a human being. But any time he found himself wanting to think differently. Like on his way home, they'd all agreed to go to pizza that night, and he didn't feel like it. He wanted to go to sushi. He could not say it. He'd upset his kids. He'd upset his wife. So he had to cede the power to her and wait for her to give it back. Well, maybe he can choose the dessert place. Or maybe, they could agree on what the drinks would be for the family when they were at the pizza place, and so on. This is a very, very unhealthy and a kind of a rotting kind of power deal, because David was so scared of feeling his own power, of being his own person, of saying and thinking and doing as he felt, while still taking into account other people. He thought of it, it's all or none. Either I'm selfish or I'm all into whatever they're doing. So either he had power, which would disconnect him from everybody, or he would have no power, but he'd feel connected, resentful, and unseen and unloved. Just a slave, kind of being the good boy. So if he was a good boy, he was a slave, and if he was a bad boy, he was self-empowered and taking care of himself. So imagine the power that he gave Martinique without her knowing for it and without her specifically asking for it. She just took on that role because that was the dynamic between them. And so she played it very well. And she enjoyed it because it made her feel powerful, and it made her feel like she could influence the relationship and she could keep him under her thumb. And so she would never have to worry about him cheating or lying or betraying her in any way. But all this power dynamic of not claiming your own power and giving it to someone else and saying you have to earn it keeps you in a dependent position, and it makes him feel small and dependent and angry and wanting to kind of struggle and find his own way. And whenever he tries to do that, it destabilizes Martinique, and she tries to tighten the screws once more, and he gets more resentful and thinks, well, if I'm even a better boy, maybe she'll give me some more freedom. And of course, none of it works. So it's kind of like tying the noose around your neck and loosening it. So I'm going to call this power differential tying the noose and unloosening, tying the noose and unloosening. And it's all about David having the courage to find his own internal sense of self-empowerment, which is taking care of himself, being true to himself, being authentic to himself, which does not mean being selfish. It means being honest and direct and helping Martinique find some comfort with her own sense of self-empowerment without needing to control David in order to feel empowered. So tying the noose and unloosening it, this is my third power differential. It doesn't end well unless both grow. I'll see you next time.